Hi guys, welcome to GOO ROO Beauty. I'm Jodie and wanted to let you know about the new Revlon ColorStay Foundation. They have changed the packaging now to include a pump, which has so many people who've enjoyed Revlon ColorStay rejoicing. It used to come in just a glass pour bottle, which has its own limitations. You either have to dip your finger in, contaminate the product every day, pour the product out, have the foundation dripping all over the lid and making a big mess of the bottle, or having to find a cotton bud, dip that into the product. It just is limiting when you've got a pour bottle. And finally, Revlon have listened to all of their fans and included a pump. I'm going to review this foundation for you today because even though the Revlon ColorStay has been around for ages and has been a favorite for many people, they have actually tinkered with the formula. So a lot of people are now, yay, a pump, oh no, new formula. So I have a whole bunch of information for you today regarding the new Revlon ColorStay Foundation formulation, so stay tuned. The traditional ColorStay is a holy grail for a lot of people. The things that people love about Revlon ColorStay is that traditionally it has given them extremely good coverage. You can apply it with a medium coverage, but then you can build it definitely to a full coverage. It does look great in photos. It has traditionally included an SPF, depending on which formulation you have, anywhere from an SPF 6 to SPF 15. The normal dry skin formulation, they have upped the SPF to SPF 20, which is fantastic. The combination oily skin only to SPF 15. I find that this does flash back in flash photography, but I don't mind. As an everyday foundation, I do want SPF in it. I just do. Overall, without flash photography, it videos very well. It looks very nice. So not only do you have that great coverage, but you've got the choice of an oily combination formulation. And a lot of oily skinned girls love this formula because you've got great coverage, you've got great durability throughout the day while keeping the oilies at bay. What people don't like about it is that it can be very high coverage. It can be sort of cakey if you build it up too much or if you apply too much powder, and it can look a little bit mask-like for a lot of people. They are retailing for $34.95, which is more expensive than what they had brought the price down on the original formulation. We'll see if they do that with this one, but right now recommended retail is $34.95. So what they're advertising with this new Revlon ColorStay with the pump is that it has a new time release technology in it. So for the normal to dry skin formulation, they're saying that the time release helps keep your skin hydrated throughout the day. And they claim that these do last 24 hours. Don't know, I just want it to last from the morning to the night. So this time release formulation is also meant to keep the foundation for the combination oily girls looking flawless throughout the day, not mask-like they say, not cakey. One of my favorite ingredients that I have discovered in many of my favorite foundations lately has been an ingredient called cyclopentasiloxone, and that is showing up in more and more products that I see, more and more products that I find myself enjoying. When I do look at the ingredients list, I do find that, and these also include that product. I'm not sure how new that ingredient is, but in my Revlon ColorStay makeups with Soft Flex, the old formulation, I cannot see cyclopentasiloxone in it. I found that the foundations I really enjoy that do contain that ingredient, they do make my skin look nice and smooth, and I also find that they are good at oil control and that the makeup lasts throughout the day. Whether that is all attributable to that one ingredient or not, I'm not sure, but I do find that that is an ingredient that I find in foundations and concealers that I really do enjoy using and have good results with. Whether it is the combination oily formulation or the normal dry formulation, that ingredient is in both of them. Interestingly enough, the top 5 ingredients are very similar between these two formulations. They are just in slightly different order. So very interesting. Colors, at least the colors that are available here at Priceline and Target, I think you might have maybe 8 to 10 colors in both the combination oily and the normal dry skin. I found the 250 Fresh Beige to be a pretty good match for my NW25 to NC30 skin, and really enjoying the Fresh Beige. I find that the color is actually very similar between the two different formulations, and in fact I'm wearing half a face of Fresh Beige in the combination oily and half a a face of fresh beige in the normal to dry. I think that a foundation review is severely lacking if it's not showing the application of the foundation so that you can see how it goes on, see how it blends, see what it covers, and then also at the end of the day, for anyone like me that has combination to oily skin, you want to see how the foundation wears at least for 8 hours through a normal work day, a normal school day, and anywhere up to 10-12 hours for me is what I would expect to get out of a long life foundation. But I wanted to share with you what my findings have been for the new formulation, and also to actually compare the combination oily skin formulation with the normal dry skin formulation. I was really curious how they would compare on my combination oily skin. So keep on watching and you'll see me apply each of these formulations to my face in the morning, and I'll come back at the end of the day to let you know how it's worn. I am using a damp beauty blender today to apply the Revlon ColorStay makeup with that new time release formulation for combination oily skin in the shade 250 Fresh Beige. I'm actually going to put 2 squirts of foundation down. The beauty blender can soak up some product, so I just work the product into the beauty blender and then dot it all around the face. And then use a stamping, patting motion, even a rolling motion to really work that foundation in. So after one layer, I have more coverage over my hyperpigmentation and freckles. It's definitely matte and it's a pretty decent color match. I would say if anything, it's probably pretty smoothing on the pores. I am going to apply another layer. Why use ColorStay if you're not going to layer it up? This does still dry fairly quickly, maybe not quite as quickly as the original, but it does dry off from that liquid into something more set. So really quickly, I'm just going to use the pointed end and make sure it's really worked into the corners so that we don't have a cakey thick part that hasn't been blended in yet by the time it's set. Okay, so that is after the second layer of Revlon ColorStay, the new formulation for oily combination skin. Definitely matte, definitely decent coverage. I would say it's medium buildable coverage. I think that it would get cakey just like the original if you did build it up to full, but it's a nice even coverage, fairly smoothing to the pores right now with definitely a matte finish upon application. I don't expect much of a change in that time period, but I'll be back to let you know how it's looking once I've finished my makeup. I have finished applying my makeup for the day. I did apply the Australia Ready Set Go very fine milled translucent finishing powder over the top, and it looks very, very smooth. It looks very matte. I've got definitely adequate coverage, so very happy with the finish right now on application. I'll be back to let you know how it wore throughout the day. Here we are about 10 hours now after application. I think it really suited my skin. So it did stay fairly matte throughout the day, and you can see now even 10 hours on without any touch up, without any blotting or repowdering, it's still looking pretty nice on my skin. The blush stayed as well throughout the day, which is a good testament to the foundation underneath it. Now this was pretty smoothing. It definitely evens out the skin tone with that medium buildable coverage. It's probably not my pores best friend, but it's not the worst. But anything that's completely matte, I find just is not all that complimentary to my pores. It wasn't too bad though. I was pretty pleased with the way that this looked throughout the day, and I'm definitely pleased at the way that it's looking now 10 hours after application without any kind of touch up. I do want to point out that this is a foundation that does not look invisible on the skin. It doesn't make your skin look like skin. It does look like you've got a layer of foundation over your face. This is not the foundation to be using if you do want that natural appearance. I think that fans of the original Revlon ColorStay are going to be pretty pleased with this new formulation. If there is much of a difference, at a guess, after just 2 days of using this new formulation, and it's been quite a while since I've used the original combination oily formulation, I would say this may be slightly easier to blend, maybe slightly slower to dry down. It does still dry down pretty fast to a definite matte finish, and also maybe slightly less coverage, but I would say that if you were happy with the coverage of the previous ColorStay, that you'd probably be pretty pleased with this new formulation. So I would definitely say to you fans of the original formulation of Revlon ColorStay that you'd probably be pretty pleased with this new time release formulation. back again with the Revlon ColorStay Foundation, the one with the new time release formulation for normal to dry skin. Now I have combination to oily skin, but I wanted to see how this one would go just in comparison with the other formula. And I was very surprised yesterday. I did use it with the Revlon Photo Ready Primer, which is great for oil control. So surprised how matte and how well my oils were controlled even with this foundation yesterday. It was almost too matte, so I am hoping for something a little bit more hydrating today. Now I did, unlike yesterday, apply a moisturizer. Today it's the Origins Vitazing SPF 15 Energy Boosting Moisturizer with Mangosteen, and I have again used the Revlon Photo Ready Perfecting Primer. The other thing I'm going to do today that I did not do yesterday was spray my face down with MAC Fix Plus just before I put the foundation on, and that's going to help hopefully smooth the foundation all over and give some hydration as well. So 2 pumps there on my hand. You can see it is running, and using the Beauty Blender today, hopefully using the Fix Plus is going to help lock in some more hydration. And I am also going to incorporate a squeeze of strobe lotion from MAC, and I'm going to sort of pop that around here where I want a bit more hydration looking, and then just popping a second layer on as well over that. So after 2 layers with the Beauty Blender, using some Fix Plus moisturizer and then some strobe cream around here, the ColorStay for normal to dry skin is looking quite nice at the moment at application. It's definitely looking smoother. My pores are definitely looking smoother. So we'll see if that continues throughout the day. And I am going to set this with the tiniest bit of powder today as well, just in the T-zone, just to see how well that coverage stays. So I have set that Revlon foundation now using the Australis Ready Set Go Loose Translucent Powder. It's very similar to the Makeup Forever HD powder, just a very silicone-y, very fine white powder. So I really like the finish of it. It is very smoothing. It's definitely matte, but I really like the way that it looks on my skin. It does not have any dewiness. I obviously have set with a powder anyway, but really not much dewiness or hydration. But at the moment it's very smoothing, it looks very nice, so I'll be back towards the end of the day to let you know how it's looking. We're looking at about 12 hours now after application of the Revlon ColorStay Normal to Dry formulation. I have not touched this up all day. I did just apply a little bit more concealer under my eye and some powder blush to my cheeks. I have not blotted, I have not powdered, I have not done anything around the face since applying a little bit of finishing powder on top of the foundation 12 hours ago now. And you'll see that it really is not looking very dewy. It's really not looking very oily at all. It's been a relatively warm day. We've done a lot of things outdoors and running around, and this foundation really has held up very well. I'm still getting significant coverage from this foundation. I'm still getting a lot of smoothing from this foundation. So I'm going to say that this is probably more smoothing than the combination to oily skin formulation of the Revlon ColorStay. And I would say it definitely still has some oil control. I'm amazed at how this stuff is holding up on my combination oily skin throughout the day. Absolutely amazing. It really does not need a touch up, despite the fact that it is for normal to dry skin. I'm going to say that this formulation is a little bit less cakey, a little bit less matte, a little bit less mask-like to the ColorStay that is made for combination oily skin. I would say if you have combination to moderately oily skin and the Revlon ColorStay for your skin type is just a little bit too hardcore, a little bit too matte, a little bit too mask-like, a little bit too heavy, that you actually consider the Revlon ColorStay for normal to dry skin. I'm really surprised by this formulation. I'm so glad I decided to compare the two. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have tried both formulations. Let me know if you've tried the new formulation. I wonder if there's a difference between the traditional normal to dry skin formula from Revlon ColorStay and the new time release formula for normal to dry skin. Let me know what your thoughts are. So really pleasantly surprised here by the Revlon ColorStay new time release formula for normal to dry skin. Okay guys, so today is challenge day. I'm going to do the half-half head-to-head with the new Revlon ColorStay time release formulas with a pump. So on my left I have the normal to dry skin formulation. I'll be putting it on the left side of my face. On my right is the combination oily skin formulation. I'll be putting that on my right side. I don't want to cross-contaminate my beauty blenders with different formulations, so I'll be using a different beauty blender for the left and a different beauty blender for the right. We're going to start with the normal dry formulation. I'm just going to start with one pump of that on my hand, and I'll be working that into the damp beauty blender. Now I have applied moisturizer today, as well as the Revlon Photo Ready Perfecting Primer. This is a decent one at oil control, so I would expect both of these foundations to do pretty well with oil control, with that primer underneath. It's one of my favorites. It would be in my top 5 primers for oil control from the drugstore as well, which is pretty good. Using the beauty blender to dab the normal dry skin formulation on the left side of my face. Okay, for argument's sake, I'm just going to do a second pump of the normal to dry skin formulation. And build up that coverage. Okay, with my other beauty blender, I am going to grab a pump of the combination oily skin formulation. I'll squeeze it onto the other hand, and with this fresh beauty blender, I'll apply that to my right side. It could just be my imagination, or it could be the uneven lighting that I have here with the natural light coming from that side, but it really looks like this side was more difficult to blend. So the combination oily skin formulation looked like it was sitting on top of my skin a little bit more, and I really had to work a little bit more with my beauty blender just to try and get that to not look like it was bits of foundation sitting on top of my skin. So I will just set that with some warm fingers. Give everything the best chance. If I had to pick one side over the other, I would actually pick the normal to dry skin formulation at this point. It looks a little bit more part of my skin. I can't see it quite as much as the combination oily side, and I would say it does make my skin look a little bit more smooth than the combination oily side. My pores might look a little bit less visible, and it almost looks like I've got slightly better coverage as well on the normal to dry side, which is quite interesting. I don't know if I would have expected that. So I will go on and apply the rest of my makeup and be back just to let you know how it's looking. So we are looking at over half an hour since I applied my foundation. I've got the ColorStay normal to dry skin on this side and the combination to oily skin formulation on this side. And at this point, there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the two sides. If anything, I prefer this side. It really does look like it just has blended into the skin better, and it also does look like it is still more smoothing. I am going to apply a little bit of powder. We'll stick with the Revlon, the Photo Ready powder in 020 light medium. I'll just use my Real Techniques multitask brush just to sort of set the T-zone there. And we'll see how it's looking at the end of the day. We're looking at 8 hours after application of the Revlon ColorStay Oily combination on this side and the Revlon ColorStay Normal to Dry on this side. I have not touched up anything on my face other than adding a little bit of concealer and lipstick halfway through the day, which is pretty much worn off. But I really can't see a difference between the two sides. I would say that as my sort of natural oils have come through throughout the day, you can see that it's really not a horrible oily mess. I would normally touch this up. I just wanted to show you without touching anything up that both sides have some oil coming through. It's not an oil slick. With the Revlon Photo Ready primer underneath, both of them have performed equally in terms of oil control, longevity, and coverage. I really can't tell a difference between these two sides as far as coverage or oil control. If you're going to wear an oil controlling primer underneath, I don't know if there's a huge difference between the two, except in the first half of the day, you saw what my thoughts were after application. I really did prefer the normal dry, and then throughout the day, I guess the combination oily became less masky as the oils came in and sort of mixed with the product. So I am actually actually really happy with the finish of both of these foundations 8 hours on. Really can't tell the difference between them, and I think the big difference is using that oil controlling primer underneath. So I hope that you found that useful, and the point that I wanted to make from this video is not only that the formulation has changed. For those who have traditionally enjoyed the combination oily skin formulation, it is a little bit different. So it's not quite as thick. You've got a little bit more time to blend this foundation in. I think it's still buildable just like the original, and if anything it's going to be a little less cakey, a little easier to work with, and I don't think that fans of the traditional combination oily formulation are going to be disappointed. You've got that pump, which is fantastic, a little bit more SPF, which is fantastic. But then the other important point that I hope that you got from this video is that for you other oily combination girls who found the oily combination formula too cakey, too thick, too mask-like, you may really enjoy this normal dry skin formulation. And you may have been able to tell from the video, my preference is absolutely for this normal dry skin formulation now. I find that it definitely looks better on my face. It definitely blends a lot easier. It looks very nice. It still controls the oil over that Revlon Photo Ready primer, which performs beautifully for oil control. It just looks nicer and more smooth on my skin while still keeping oils at bay throughout the day. So girls, do consider this one if you have not traditionally liked the combination oily and you have skin like mine. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was informative. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Let me know if you have anything to add. I love to hear from you guys. I love to learn from you guys, and thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a beautiful day, and we'll see you again really soon. Bye.